Yo, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Tree, the LPC, and thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Self-Aware and Effed Up podcast. When I tell you guys you are in for a treat this week, I had the pleasure of visiting her podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I am really, really excited about being able to talk to her today in this setting and for you guys to learn more about her story. I have with me today Tina Bailey. She is the woman for women, and she can tell you a little bit more about what that actually means. But she's also a master life coach as well as a certified peer support specialist. She helps others. She loves helping women. And she is the host of the Boss Up podcast. So I really, really am excited to introduce her to you guys and let her tell you a little bit more about her story. So without further ado, please welcome to the Self-Aware and Effed Up podcast, Miss Tina Bailey. Hey girl, hey, how's it going today?
Hey girl, I'm good. I am real good. How are you?
I am doing a little bit better now that we're chatting. So definitely grateful to be able to spend a little bit more time with you and have my audience learn a little bit more about your story. It's such a pleasure speaking with you. So we had to, run it back one time.
Yes.
But I do, so I do want to go ahead and get us started by just having you tell the audience a little bit about Tina.
Wow, about Tina. Tina is, first and foremost, I am the mom of 5 adult individuals and the grandma of 5 young boys. And I have this passion about women and helping women to find their moment and prioritizing themselves. I often say it's time to boss up and to become the CEO of your own life. And most people don't realize that, you don't have to have a business to be a boss. Your life is that business. And I often say, I take it from Jay-Z. Yeah. But anyway, I take it from Jay-Z and I kind of reframe it. And he says, I am not a businessman. I'm a businessman. Man. So I say, I'm not a woman. I'm not a businesswoman. I'm a whole business. Yes. Unapologetically. And I feel that when women are really begin to see themselves as a business, we make better choices. Mm-hmm. And we don't allow our emotions to make those decisions. And that's what I do. And that's what I love. I love helping those women to come up and really see themselves as that CEO and make those decisions that can transform their lives.
Yeah. I love that. I love what you do, that whole idea of bossing up, because I think a lot of people, when they think about boss up, they probably do think about, I got to be a business owner in order for me to connect with Tina. But, I think that it's great to kind of frame it in that way. And obviously, I love the fact that you quoted Jay-Z. So definitely appreciate that. So how did you get to this place of being a champion of women, being the woman for women? Like, what drew you to this population?
I think I would have to say it wasn't something that I wanted to do. Mm. It really wasn't something I wanted to do. It was something that I needed to do. And I needed to do it from a standpoint to make sure that I don't fall back into the rut of what I was in. And I felt, honestly, it's easier to help others than it is to help yourself. But when you begin to help others, you will start seeing yourself. And a lot of times you have those aha moments like, I need to chew on that myself instead of just giving it to them. And that's what I started doing. And soon it just became one of those things. It evolved and from one thing to another. It started off just as teaching youth ministry. That's how it started,
Oh, wow.
And then it went to, okay, now I'm going to work with the women's ministry. And then it was, I'm going to volunteer at Interact, which is in North Carolina, an organization that focuses on domestic violence and sexual abuse. And I was like, oh, I'm a volunteer with them, not realizing I was one of those people that needed to be sitting in that group. I started working with them. And then it was a thing of, when I realized, okay, I need to be here. I'm going through some of this, and sitting on the couch with a therapist and taking almost 18 months to actually verbalize that I was in an abusive relationship. Mm. And one of the pivot, there was a pivot moment to where I was like, okay, it's got to be something different. I want something different. And that's how it started. Mm-hmm. It was me making a decision that I wanted something different. And that's what I went and did.
Gotcha. You were out helping people before you even knew that you needed help in some of those areas that you were trying to help other people with.
Absolutely. So I give you, there's several things. There were several turning points in it. I remember I was speaking at a women's event, and I was talking about the different forms of abuse. Now I knew that, there was some toxicity, but I didn't call it abuse. Right.
Okay.
And I was talking about the different forms of abuse. And there was this young lady, I went to the bathroom and washed my hands. And she said, she came in the bathroom, looked around. And I was like kind of scared. I'm like, okay, is she going to do something to me? She looking at the stalls. And she said, can I ask you a question? I said, absolutely. And she had on this wrap dress. I will never forget. It was a black wrap dress. She took it loose, and she was black and blue all on her stomach. Wow. And I said, okay, and very calm. I said, okay, we have a problem. And she said, what do I do about this? I said, first thing you need to do is you need to go to the hospital, because you have new bruises and old bruises, and there could be some internal bleeding, and we need to get that checked. Is there anyone in there that can take you to the hospital? And she was like, I don't want nobody to know what's going on. I said, it's got to be somebody in there you trust. And she said, my sister. And I said, okay. When got her sister, came in, told her what was going on. They went off to the hospital. A couple of days went by. I contacted a lady that called me to come in to do this event. And I said, I was talking to a young lady, and she wanted to purchase one of my books. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get her information. Can you provide that information for me? And she was like, and I explained what she had on. She said, oh, that's First Lady so-and-so. I said, what?
Wow.
And I said, okay. I said, well, that's fine. I said, I just want to get her the books. And she said, oh, yeah, I'll give you a number. And I got off the phone with that lady, and I cried. I literally cried. And I heard a voice inside of me that said, you're crying for her, but you're not crying for yourself.
Wow.
And it's like, you are experiencing the same thing. You just don't have the bruises to show it.
Mm. Yeah. So
and that was a turning point.
Wow. Yeah. That it can be tricky kind of navigating that. Because what I'm thinking about is like, you obviously it's kind of taboo. You got a first lady that you didn't even know this is the first lady that is going through this, and your heart is crying for her, and then your spirit kind of quickened you and was like, look, what you doing? Because you ain't doing this for yourself. And so right. For you, you said your bruises weren't physical. What was your experience like when you say like you're going through the same thing? What was your experience there?
Yeah, so I experienced a lot of emotional and verbal abuse, financial abuse, spiritual abuse. There was occasions of physical abuse. Mm-hmm. They were very far in between. But, one of the things I want to make sure that everybody knows, it don't matter how far in between it is. One time is one too many. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't see it that way. And a lot of times I often say you can't see the picture because you're part of the frame. And I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it because I grew up in that kind of environment, and I felt like he was providing everything that I needed. And I just thought, okay, it's something wrong with me, and I need to change the way I am so that this won't be happening. But there was just so much going on. And then, like I said, I had 5 kids, and a lot of times women will stay because, I just, and I did not grow up with my father in the house. He died when I was 9 years old. And I wanted to make sure that my children had their father. And that was it. And I was like, okay, I will make the sacrifice. But I just want people to realize you don't have to be a martyr. Never be a martyr for anything. But that was it. It was just, I could not see it because it wasn't. And even though, like I said, I was teaching what the different abuses was. I still, in my mind, saw he's not hitting me, like, and, but there were many instances to where there was a lot of abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but a lot of times we don't recognize those other forms of abuse. Like we don't pay attention to things like the financial abuse, which keeps a lot of women stuck, in those situations. I'm also wondering, was there any part of it that was just kind of hard to see yourself as a victim?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because, I was that one, I'm not a victim of anything, but I never forget there was earlier I was molested as well as I was raped. And so here I am now in this marriage. And mind you, our relationship started when I was 15 years old. You don't know who you are at 15 years old. And it went on until I was 45. Okay. So, yeah. So you grow into that and it becomes a norm. But I remember one moment in particular, there was a lot of infidelity. And I remember him asking me, he said, how can you forgive the person that molested you and raped you, but can't forgive me? And he used scripture, saying that the Bible says that we're to forgive 7 times, 70 times a day. And I'm like, and in my mind, because I want to be pleasing unto God, I said, Tina, you do have to forgive. And so that was a lot of the reason why I couldn't see it, is because I really had this fear, and I laugh about it and talk about it in one of my books. I had this fear that if I said no, that the earth was going to open up and I was going to fall into the pit of hell. I really did believe that. And so that is why I do what I do, is because I need women to realize and understand that you don't have to stay in anything that is not aligning you with what you're supposed to be or what you want to be. Yeah. And a lot of times we don't know that because we can't see past what's presented to us.
Right. Yeah. And so many women do stay because of that. Like they don't see themselves in the victim role any more than you wanted to kind of accept what was going on in your situation. But I know that you've kind of broken the mold in that you realized what was going on. And now you help other women that are maybe experiencing that. I know you help like all types of women, but you help other women kind of navigate that. How did you make that shift? I mean, you were already kind of helping them, but now you're going even deeper and becoming a coach and all of that. What was that part of your journey like?
I will never forget that day. So like I said, I was doing those things, and I remember, and I can't remember if the vision board came before or after. I think it came after. But I remember I was laying on the floor. I want to emphasize that. Laying on the floor, begging someone to love me, begging him to love me. Just love me. Just love me. And he stepped over me and walked out the door. And I made myself a promise. And I said, God, when you get me off this floor, I will never be in this position again. And I will never allow another woman to feel this kind of pain. And it switched. I went from being in denial, and I had a friend to tell me denial is don't even know I'm lying. And I was like, yeah, I couldn't see it. And I made that switch because I realized I had boys and girls that was looking up to me, and I was lying to them, and I was walking around wearing a mask and acting like everything was fine. But the truth of the matter is I didn't even know who I was behind that mask. Yeah. And I was like, if I'm going through this, someone else is going through this. And the switch came from, and I'm going to be very honest, at that point, I could not do it for myself. Although I made that promise to myself, it really wasn't for me. It was for my kids. It was for the women that I would be in contact with. It was outside of me. It wasn't for me. Now it's for me. I'm not gonna lie. Now it's very personal. But at that time it wasn't personal. And some of the women that I talk to, that is the one thing I say. Who are you doing this for? And a lot of them will say their kids. Okay, let's start with that. Yeah. Because at least you need something and some reason.
Yeah.
It's not, let's be real. Like, we lie to ourselves and say it's all, I'm doing this for me. No, you're not. Because if you're doing it for you, you would have never got in this situation.
Yeah. That's definitely true. And I mean, regardless of why you're doing it, the thing is, if you're in that type of situation and you don't even realize it, maybe you're listening right now and you're saying like, yeah, I'm there. Whatever your why is, it doesn't even matter. Just do it.
Just do it. Just do it. And know that it's going to be okay. I think so often, and I really want, like, to that one that's listening and she's sitting there and was like, hey, am I really being abused? Like, I don't know. If you got to question it, maybe you are.
Yeah.
If it don't feel normal, if it don't make you happy, if it's robbing you of some kind of joy or fulfillment, there's some type of abuse going on. Maybe it's mental, maybe it's emotional. It's something. Something's not connecting. And it could very well be that you're the one that's inflicted it on you. And you're hoping that this person will help you pull it out. And that's not their job.
Yeah. Yeah. That part. I think it's that. I mean, and that's even tougher sometimes to deal with if it's you doing it, because that's a whole different battle. It's one thing when someone else is doing something to you, but that inner saboteur that a lot of us deal with, that keeps a lot of us stuck. But it sounds like you were able to find that inner push, even though initially it was your kids that you were doing it for. You were able to kind of go inward. But I'm gonna go back because you said something about lying on the floor and this man stepping over you. So I'm like, that level of disrespect, like, to me, I'm sensing that there was some other stuff going on there. So how did you even get to the point of kind of knowing, like, okay, I gotta go. Like, I have to go. Like, even before that moment, was there anything else that kind of led you to being like, okay, something's wrong with him and I deserve better than this?
Honestly, I could not see it that way before that. Like, I knew that something was off. I knew that, and I honestly felt like I wasn't doing enough, like that I wasn't being a good enough wife or a good enough person, or something had to be wrong with me for all of this to be happening. I really did a lot of, it was self-torture, trying to change the way I did things, starving myself to lose weight, or because I was addicted to food, and I did a lot of binge eating. That's how I dealt with the emotions and everything. And so I'm like, maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's what's wrong there. So it was never him. In my mind, it was never him. It wasn't him until I sat on that couch with that therapist, and I said, "Oh my God, I am being abused." And she was like, "Well, damn." That's what she said. She said, "Well, damn." But you can't, like I said, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it because that was a norm. That was a norm. Gotcha. And then when you say, it was a very low point. And I must be very transparent in saying that wasn't the only time that I found myself in that space. Sometimes it's not, because like I'm like this, the way you do one thing is the way you do all things. And I had to realize that when I am staying in situations, whether it's on a job, whether it's working with a client or whomever, and I'm not getting what I need out of it, that's me laying on that floor begging to be loved.
Yeah.
And so I had to ask myself, okay, how long are you going to keep getting on this floor? Know your worth, know who you are, stand up, be proud. And the one that is for you is for you. And if it's not, something else is better coming.
It really is hard for people to recognize those signs. So, you pointed out a couple of signs in terms of things that maybe you missed. Are there any other signs you think people should be looking out for that may be an indicator that they are in a situation where they're being abused?
Absolutely. So I have I created a program, and it's called What You Don't See.
Mm.
And it is a domestic violence simulation training that I offer to churches, to organizations, to police officers, to whomever, sororities, to see the different things that we don't see or think is abuse. And it was always funny to me when it's one in particular that I will say, and I always get the same, kind of response.
Mm.
And I talk about sexual abuse.
Okay.
And it wasn't until 1993 when all of the states actually said that if you're forced to have sex with your husband or in a married situation, that is actually abuse.
Mm.
Until then, it wasn't.
Right.
Okay. And so when I tell them, I said, if you're standing in the shower and someone is staring at you and they will not leave after you've asked them to leave, that is sexual abuse. Mm. If someone is forcing you to do acts that you don't want to do, that is sexual abuse, even if you enjoy it. Mm. I also tell them, even if you enjoy the act in which you was doing and it was fulfilling to you, but you get up feeling violated or abused or feeling neglected in the midst of it, that is abuse. Mm. And I think that sometimes we feel as women that that's our job. Our job is to satisfy, but our job is also to be satisfied. So when I talk about that, and the reason I even bring that one up is because a lot of times women, we don't see that as any form of abuse because I'm not being raped. I'm not being attacked. This is someone I know. I'm not, but it can happen most of the time. It is by someone that you know, or maybe it is the belittling, making subtle jokes. That was one of the things that my ex was really good at, was subtle jokes about my past. Well, you came from the country, girl, like just a little belittling type comments. And someone else was like, oh, that's nothing. But if it's done all the time, or it could be something as small as, oh, you got a big nose, or the gaslighting of, you just being extra sensitive right now. And you begin to think, maybe I am. Those are all signs. And another sign that I would definitely say is if that person is, you're saying that something is bothering you and they're refusing to change the behavior that's bothering them, that is a flag that you need to be aware of, because they're not worrying and concerned about you. They're concerned about themselves. So it's so many different areas that, you can look at. I mean, and we have to, realize, like I said, it could be the verbal, it could be the spiritual. Well, you're not, I'm more spiritual than you. I go to church more often. I know more of the word. I know this. And so you're sitting and you're thinking you're beneath. If anyone, whether it is a relationship, a partner, or if it's just a person that you consider a friend, if it's an employee, if it's a person in the store, if they're doing anything to make you feel like less of the person that you was when you walked into their presence, check it.
Yeah.
And not check them, check yourself. Why do I feel like this? And do I feel like this every time I'm in their presence? There's some type of abuse going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate you highlighting those things, because those are things that not everyone looks at as like problematic. And of course, you said the G word, a hot topic, where gaslighting, which I know somebody's ears are ringing off right now, because that is something that is a lot more, it's talked about a lot more now, but people don't really people say that everything is gaslighting, even some things that are not, but right. I would just say, if you heard the G word while you're listening, just, check yourself too, is all I'll say, because everything is not gaslighting.
Yeah, everything is, everything is not. Some of it is, but, without going into a lot, because it is a very taboo subject, because I'm like, oh, don't say that. And I'm like, listen, we need to be real and understand. Like, if somebody's dangling a carrot to you, oh, girl, come on, you can have this, you can have this. And then when you get to it, they snatch it back. No, we're not having it. We're not having it.
Gotcha, for sure. So you work with women. You help them through a lot of life circumstances. Who would your kind of ideal client be in terms of like the type of women that you work with?
So, for the most of my coaching at this point and my peer support, like, of course, I'm always going to have my heart is in those that are survivors of domestic abuse and sexual trauma. And I must admit, I don't do a lot of work with the individuals who are currently in the domestic violence situation, because my heart is I will become their abuser because I would make them come out. Mm-hmm. And that is a form, that's to me is a form of I'm making you do something that you really don't want to do. Yeah. I prefer to work with those individuals who are already out of the situation, but they're living with the residual effects of it. Mm-hmm. Meaning they have been out of this relationship and could even be in a healthy relationship, but they're bringing their past into their current relationship, or they're not able to request a promotion or a raise on their job because they're so used to being told no by the abuser. So they don't feel comfortable doing that. Maybe it is someone who is ready to move forward, but a lot of the things from their past is holding them back. Maybe they have something on their credit. Maybe they have something in their criminal background. Those things are holding them back. Those are my clients. Those are the ones that I work with to help them to see you can do this. Like, what is the next thing that you want to do? Don't worry about what was. We'll work all that out in therapy. But for right now, what is it that I can help you to do to get over this hurdle so that you can be the best version of yourself and you can show up as a CEO of your own life? How can I help you to see your life as a business? How can I help you to truly identify with the person that you call whatever you call yourself, mm-hmm. instead of what everybody else is calling you? What are you answering to? That's my client.
Gotcha. I love it. And if you're listening and any of that resonates with you, please make sure you guys get with Tina and, work with her. So Tina, I want to kind of shift gears and put you back in the hot seat a bit, and just check in to see kind of how do you personally identify with the idea of being self-aware and effed up?
Girl, like when I think about, I am very self-aware. I know when something is off, and I guess the effed up part comes in is sometimes I don't want to admit that it is. I think that, I don't, I have learned to be extremely protective and even selfish with my time, with my energy and who I am, because I gave so much away. And that's being self-aware, right? Like, okay, what is your issue? But I also have to realize and understand the effed up part is, why did it take you so long to get to this point? Mm. Why did it, and I find myself asking myself those questions when in actuality I should be celebrating the fact that I'm not there instead of why. So I think that's the effed up part, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. A lot of us ask that question of ourselves, like, why did it take me so long? And I think with that, we just have to kind of give ourselves grace, because you didn't know, from what you shared, it didn't seem like you realized. You said you sat with a therapist for 18 months before you were able to even verbalize what was going on with you. And so I think that says a lot about that D word, denial, and just that lack of awareness of really what was going on, because you were doing what you felt like you needed to do for your kids. So, yeah.
So, well, and then one of the things too, and I don't know, there's one thing to be in a situation where there is just abuse, and I say that lightly, but it's also another thing to be in a relationship with someone that has any kind of mental health issues. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that, we realize that sometimes, because as women, we tend to want to just truly focus on the good in people, and we don't want to acknowledge what's really there.
Yeah. So. And we got to, because that mental health piece of it, it's critical if they're not getting help. And if you're dealing with a narcissist, it really ain't much gonna change, even if they get help. So,
Yeah, and let's be real. A lot of times, we don't even know we're dealing with if we don't know the signs of what it is to deal with a narcissist, we don't know that they are a narcissist because most narcissists don't believe there's anything wrong with them, so they're not getting help and they're not acknowledging it. So it's like, and if you don't know, and not only was I dealing with a narcissist, I was very codependent. So it was like a messed up world. Okay.
Yeah.
Very messed up world. So.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, Tina, I so appreciate your time and you showing up today for us to talk. I know that we both were kind of under the weather today, so definitely appreciate you and your energy. I want you to kind of share with the audience how they can connect with you, purchase your books, get your services, all of that good stuff so that they can reach out to you.
Awesome. So if you are on Instagram, I am Tina Bailey. That is a way to get me. I am more active on Facebook than anywhere else, and it's Tina Bailey Online. And that's just because that's where I started. I'm working on the Instagram, so y'all join me on Instagram so I can be more active over there. Call me out, girl. Where you at? As far as my books, you can go to my website, www.tinabaileyonline.com. That is also how you can connect with me. There's many multiple links on there that you can, depending on what you're into. Maybe you are looking for peer support. We do offer peer support services, and what people don't realize is now you can get peer support, and your mental health providers can actually provide that for you, and even through your employer. So there's means, and I know that a lot of times people don't reach out for help because of financial reasons. Don't let that be a reason not to get help, and especially not from me. I can't talk for nobody else. I don't want my services to not be available for anyone just because of finances. So that's how.
Well, thank you so much, Tina. Guys, please make sure that you connect with Tina. The information of how you can connect with her will be in the description and show notes of this episode. Also, be sure to follow me, Tree the LPC, on all social media platforms under the handle Tree the LPC. Until next time, be safe, be well, and make sure that you take care of your mental health.